Well, hi everybody, welcome to Afterburner. I'm Bill Whittle. You know, somewhere during the last 129 GOP debates that we had this year, Newt Gingrich said something that went right to the heart of that sense of things falling apart in civil society.
I don't think liberty means libertine. I don't think liberty means absence of value. None of the founding fathers thought liberty meant that. The pursuit of happiness in the 18th century Enlightenment meant wisdom and virtue. None of the founding fathers would have said that education without character is useful. They would have said it is, in fact, dangerous.
Education without character is not only not useful, it's dangerous. You know, it seems to me that there are two sides to building character. First, as Newt pointed out, is virtue. When's the last time you heard anyone in the public arena use that term? Virtue is defined as moral excellence, goodness, righteousness, conformity of one's life and conduct to moral and ethical principles. You know, you can't have freedom without virtue. The Founding Fathers said that again and again and again, and they lived in a very virtuous age. Now, that's kind of a tall statement in this postmodern age. You can't have freedom without virtue, but it's absolutely true. When you allow people to be free, you're depending on them to do the right thing, well, most of the time anyway. And in a virtuous society, criminals are severely punished because their actions prey on the virtuous. In a society where cheating and stealing is not punished, you're a chump if you behave in a virtuous manner. Just let me know if any of this starts to sound familiar. You see, the idea of a virtuous population is built into American culture, and as we become less and less virtuous, less and less internally governed, people give up their freedom of actions and allow the government to make ever more laws and regulations to coerce people into behaving the way that a virtuous people behave without coercion. Now, I said that virtue was built into the American experiment in individual freedoms and individual responsibility. In order to understand that, let me tell you a quick tale about the three great Abrahamic religions, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, and how their view of people affects the way their societies are built. Now, Islam views people as fundamentally incapable of freedom, at least in the way that we understand it in the West. The strict codes of classical Islam, called Sharia, creates a society that does not allow any freedoms at all. Gambling is forbidden. Drinking is forbidden. Sexuality is strictly repressed. Islam tells you what to eat, how to bathe, when and in what direction to pray. Islam and politics are inseparable. Religion is politics, and politics is religion. You have no rights, basically, and essentially no freedom of action. Now, I am most certainly not saying that Muslims lack virtue. On the contrary, most of them are extremely virtuous. What I am saying is that their virtuous behavior is rigidly enforced from above and not from within. Now, Judaism is more forgiving. Judaism's central tenet is the idea of law, as defined by the Ten Commandments. Judaism allows far more freedoms than Islam because of the presence of laws that you are expected to adhere to. The idea of external laws of morality and virtue means that you have a choice whether to follow them or not. But Christianity takes us a step further. Christianity assumes that the laws of virtue must reside within your own heart. The central tenet of Christianity is that you have an internal judge who never sleeps, and that if you behave immorally, you will have to answer for it, whether you get caught or not. Now, this is the fundamental tenet of a free society because it allows you to do pretty much anything you want, and it assumes you will govern your own behavior in the face of the stakes involved, inescapable eternal punishment or eternal reward. Now, it's possible to have an internal judge constraining your behavior without believing in God, of course. It's just a damn sight harder to find. Now, if you have an internal, all-knowing judge inside of you, then a society made up of these kinds of people needs very few laws and regulations at all. They're self-regulating people. You can let people like that be free. I think the second part of character is discipline. My favorite description of discipline is this one: behavior in accord with rules of conduct, behavior and order maintained by training. If virtue is the destination, discipline is the road. Most people today think of discipline, again, as something external, discipline enforced upon you by someone else. But real discipline is internal. Virtue calls forth discipline in order to achieve goals. Discipline is hard work, but like going to the gym every day, it gets easier the longer you do it. That's pretty much it, I think. Think about the man with the most character in all of American history. a man who turned down an offer of kingship, a man who knew his own weaknesses for the trappings of power and through virtue and discipline walked away from this greatest of temptations. George Washington was a man of unequaled character, incandescent virtue maintained by iron discipline. Almost all of the founders were cut from this same cloth, each in their own way. They gave to us a nation built on the freedoms that a virtuous and disciplined people, people of character, deserved and would maintain. So, you know who's responsible for all of the lawlessness, the entitlement, the temper tantrum chanting, the anger and confusion of the Occupy generation? Yeah, we are. We failed those poor kids. Our job was to instill character, virtue, and discipline into these young people, and we failed them. We failed them utterly, and we're going to pay for it too. OWS is just the first notice of this long overdue bill. No, my friends, we got a lot of work to do.